In this video, we're going to break down everything you need to know to start a podcast from scratch and grow it to tens of thousands of downloads per month. I'm Steven Robles, and I've been podcasting for over 15 years. Over the years, I've started multiple podcasts from scratch, growing some to millions of downloads. And my latest podcast, which launched in the top 20 in Apple Podcast and has over 300,000 downloads in just over a year. And here at Riverside, we know podcasting because we work with some of the biggest creators, like Tim Ferriss, Nilay Patel at Decoder, who uses Riverside to record. Creators like Ali Abdaal, brands like the New York Times, Netflix, and more all use Riverside. So in this video, we're going to share it all. No gatekeeping and all the information in one place. Throughout this video, we're going to share how you should choose your topic and niche and how to differentiate from all the other shows. Every single piece of gear you need to get started, whether you're just using your mobile phone and have zero budget, or you want to build an entire home studio. And then all the technical knowledge you need to record, edit, and publish your podcast, whether you're doing audio only or why we recommend doing video as well. All the best ways to promote and market your show to grow, and all the ways to make money from your podcast, which is way more than just sponsors, and you can start right now with the download numbers you have. So by the end of this video, my promise is that you'll have all the knowledge you need to start your podcast and grow to your first 10,000 downloads. Now, if you're already midway through the process or you want to jump to a section, use the chapters right here, or the timestamps are in the video description below. There'll also be links to equipment I talk about, other videos you can reference for even more information, and if you have any questions, leave comments below this video. I'm going to answer all of them personally. All right, let's jump in. First, let's talk about nailing down a topic and or niche, and I'll explain the difference. Go to any podcast player, maybe that's Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and you'll see that there are hundreds of thousands of shows out there already. But don't let that discourage you, because podcasting is actually still a growing medium. Just in June 2025, podcasting is now considered mainstream, meaning over 50% of Americans and others across the world actually listen to podcasts on a daily basis. And there are still big names eyeing into getting to podcasting like Netflix. So you're in the right place. It's not too late. You can still start and grow a show today. As you think about your topic, it's important to remember it needs to be something you're passionate about. Is it something that you talk about all the time? Podcasting is a long game, so you want to make sure it's something you're really interested in talking about. I would not recommend trying to chase maybe trending topics or things you think are popular today. You want to be podcasting for years to come, so choose something specific and unique to you that you love. Then the second part is your expertise. What are you knowledgeable about? What do you have experience in? And whatever's in the middle of that Venn diagram, that should be your topic, something you're passionate about and have expertise or experience in. I also like to advise people, think about the value you're going to bring to your listeners and viewers. Are you going to educate them? Are you offering information, ways that they can improve themselves, learn a new skill or trade? Or are you going to entertain? Is it going to be something funny, maybe a comedy podcast? Or are you going to inspire? Tell stories that people have never heard before, maybe stories of those underrepresented? And which of those three is your main focus? For me, I focus on the education aspect. I'm sharing technology news and making it digestible for people to understand and realize why it matters to them. Now, if you can do more than one of those three things, like educate and entertain, maybe you have a good rapport with a co-host, or you have some humor in addition to teaching your listeners and viewers things, that's even better. So think about your passion and expertise, find what's in the middle, and then think about whether you're going to educate, entertain, inspire, or some combination of the three. Now, once you've landed on your topic, maybe it's talking about classic cars or the latest news in fashion. Whatever it is, I would recommend going to Apple Podcasts and Spotify, go to the top charts, and then look for your category. Would it fall under sports, health and fitness, or education? Then browse the top shows in that category. This is going to be important because you want to make sure that your show is different. How is it going to be unique and stand out from all the other shows out there? Now, at the top of any category, you're going to have big names and even celebrities. So I would encourage you to actually go past those, because these are people who have an audience from maybe a book that they've authored, maybe they were on a TV show or in movies. So go down to about the 50s, 60s, and higher and see what kind of shows make it into the top 100. Then start looking for shows that stand out to you, whether it's the artwork, the title, or a topic that's particularly interesting. For those interested in self-improvement, maybe the art of accomplishment. The artwork caught my eye, and that title is kind of interesting. And if you're not sure what category your podcast is in, look at multiple. We'll go to the business category. Again, scroll down to about the 50s and higher. I'm doing this in Apple Podcasts, by the way. And you'll still see podcasts from very well-known people like Meghan Markle. But see what else stands out. Afford Anything, that's an interesting title. Make Me Smart. And as you begin to consider what your podcast will be called, remember something generic or very general like Coaching Inc. That's not going to tell new listeners and audience members what your show is about at a glance. Remember, most often someone is going to be browsing podcasts on their phone, maybe their tablet, and the artwork is probably going to be small. The title's also small and maybe hard to see at a glance. So you want to make sure your podcast is different and stands out from the pack. We'll talk about artwork in a minute, but even just scrolling these podcasts on Spotify, you can see that the town, those words definitely stand out. While other pieces of artwork, it's very hard to read the text when it's in small print. Keep that in mind. So let's say you've chosen your topic and your niche. We'll say the topic is business and investment, but maybe the niche or the specific angle is real estate investment, or specifically commercial real estate investment. You may think that being hyper-specific on the topic is going to alienate some audience, but actually it's going to help make your podcast different from the others, and that's how you build a passionate and loyal following. Another example I use is if you wanted to start a sports podcast. There are already many out there. Just go to the sports category and you'll see there's former athletes, sports announcers, lots of people with sports podcasts that's going to be hard to break in, especially if you're just doing general sports news about a major sport. So I tell people, if you want to think about how to niche down, you want to do a sports podcast, what if you did a show about a local basketball team? Maybe it's a local high school basketball team. I bet there's incredible stories from the players, the parents, and the coaches. And if you told those stories in a compelling way via an interview podcast, you could have a topic that no one else is doing, and it would be interesting not just to the local community, which is a great built-in audience who would probably listen right away, but those stories told really well will actually find an even wider audience. So in a nutshell, be unique. Now for the second part. You have your topic, your niche, your specific angle. What is going to be the title of your show, your artwork, and description? Artwork is so important because it's the front door to your podcast. Now, if your podcast is going to be very personality driven or centered around you as the host, I would recommend putting your face in the artwork. You'll see a lot of shows do that, but also try to be colorful and, again, different from those in your category. These are some of the podcasts I follow, and artwork that I really like are one where the host faces are on there, but the artwork is different, stands out, and the name of the show is very large, easy to see at a glance, and it doesn't have to be complicated. Artwork like this with the name of the show and the host, maybe the logo, has a little retro feel, almost like a VCR. That looks great too. Or you can have an illustrative type artwork. This is my movie podcast, and we want it to have a fun but still colorful look to our artwork. Now your podcast's main show artwork is going to be a square, ideally 3,000 pixels by 3,000 pixels wide. This is my current technology podcast, and you can see this square is going to be used everywhere. You'll upload this to your podcast host, which we'll get to later, and you'll see it's here in Spotify. Third-party podcast apps like Overcast or Pocket Cast will use it there. And of course, you'll see it here in Apple Podcasts. Now, if you're not sure how to design podcast artwork or you have zero graphic experience, you can look to hire this out. Fiverr is a good resource. You can find someone to make you podcast artwork there. And remember, you can always change your artwork later. So you're not locked in when you first launch your podcast, and maybe you can hire someone later to make something even better. But you can also find great templates in services like Canva. You can choose a template, replace it with your text and your imagery, and a lot of them are free. So whether you hire it out or do it yourself, try to land on some eye-catching artwork that will stand out. Now, if you really want to set your show apart in Apple Podcasts specifically, there's actually different kinds of artwork you can use. You'll see here our show artwork actually goes edge to edge, and it's not just a square on our show page. Plus, we actually have paid subscription, which we'll talk about later, and you can have different looking artwork there as well. I'll put a link to this webpage down in the video description, along with a bunch of other resources, but Apple has their own artwork guide, not just for the square artwork, which they call the show cover, but also full page show art that you can actually create and upload yourself. They also have downloadable templates so you can create your own, and that can set your show apart on Apple. Now we'll get to this when we talk about hosting providers as well, but you can even set custom episode artwork, which means every episode of your podcast can have a different square image that represents the different episodes. And that episode artwork is actually seen here in Apple Podcasts when someone goes to a specific episode, and Spotify will also use different artwork per episode here. I'll show you where to put that custom episode artwork when we get to podcast hosting. Then in addition to the artwork, every podcast is represented by a title and a description. The description usually lives in this about section, and to be honest, not many people see the full description. but still take some time to think about a few sentences that will describe your podcast. Sharing some credentials of you and your co-host might help add some credibility to the show. You can put that in the description, or just have a straightforward summary of what the podcast is about. Like this one saying, Verge editor-in-chief Nilay Patel talks to a cast of innovators and policymakers about business and technology. But what you should really spend more time thinking about is the show title. Now remember, shows that are celebrity-driven or have hosts that have audiences from another venue, someone like Amy Poehler. Doesn't really matter what she calls her podcast, she's going to have a lot of listeners and viewers. But having a catchy title can really help when you start a podcast and you don't have an audience you can bring from somewhere else. You can try to be straightforward, something like creating confidence. And if you could find a way, put a word in the title that has to do with your specific topic and niche. If it's about gardening, maybe put that in the title somewhere. And for my show being a technology news related podcast, I put technology right in the name. But we added a word, primary technology, and that's actually a play on words. We focused a lot on Apple tech, and primary technology is something Apple CEO Tim Cook said in an interview, but it also implies that this is about the technology that matters to people, the primary technology. So browse the top charts, have some inspiration. This is also a great thing to ask ChatGPT for name ideas. And remember, you can always change this later. So you've decided on your topic, your niche, your unique angle, your title, artwork, and description are nailed down. Now, before we start recording, let's think about the format of the podcast. Is this going to be a solo show where it's just you talking to the microphone and camera? Are you going to have a regular co-host on your show? Or is it more of a guest and interview-based podcast where you're booking people all the time? Now, this will depend largely on your niche, but from personal experience, I will say that having regular co-host is the best way to stay consistent and go long-term with your podcast. And you can still have a regular co-host and bring in special guests. That's what we do on Primary Technology. Now, if you're going to have a regular co-host, choosing the right one is important. One that has availability to record, one that you have good rapport with. And if you plan to be maybe funny and have that entertainment side of the podcast, make sure that you guys have good chemistry. Now, if you're going to have a guest-based podcast, booking guests regularly can be a challenge. We'll talk more about booking guests later in this video, but it can be a successful way to grow a show because you're pulling on the audiences of all your special guests, but it's a lot of work to cold email and try to contact regular guests all the time. You can also try to do a solo show where it's just you talking to your audience, but that can be difficult to sustain as well. There's no one else to bounce ideas off of or have a conversation with, and just having multiple people on a podcast helps your listeners and viewers stay with it and stay engaged because there's changing back and forth between who's talking. After you've decided the format, co-host, solo, or with guests, there's also other questions about release cadence and length of a podcast. Keep in mind, the biggest podcasts have a weekly release cadence. So if you're wanting to grow and do it long term, I would consider doing every week. Now, if that sounds like a lot, or maybe you just can't sustain that schedule right now, you can try every other week or even once a month. But the key is to be consistent. Whatever your release schedule is, stick to that and make sure you release regularly. Our show is a weekly podcast and we release a new episode, both audio and video. And that's basically how I've done all my podcasts over the years. Also consider how long your episodes might be. There are podcasts that have multi-hour long episodes and those can work. And you can also go shorter, maybe 20 to 30 minutes. The biggest thing is you need to be providing value and engage your audience throughout the duration of your podcast. So if at the 30 to 40 minute mark, it starts to peter off and maybe you're losing energy and steam, then do a shorter podcast. Do a 25 to 30 minute episodes every week, and that can be great. Or if you're doing interviews with guests like Lex Friedman and you're going to go for 2 to 3 hours, but it's very in-depth, very knowledge-based, that can work too. Think about your format, what you can sustain, and remember, you have to edit that podcast too. Although there's some great AI tools that can really cut down your editing time, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. Then in your early stages of planning, think about your topic and niche and what are some recurring segments you can do in your podcast episodes. In our show, we actually do a segment called Personal Tech every week. And this can be an app that we've recently discovered or something we're doing with our devices. And that Personal Tech closes out every show. So think about what segments or recurring topics and themes you can do. Maybe it's a listener Q&A, which is a great way to engage your audience. Or maybe it's the top 5 in your category and topic. Having recurring segments that your audience looks forward to is a great way to keep them engaged. And a huge key to podcasting is listen to your community. One of the great things about podcasts is audiences usually stick around for a longer amount of time than YouTube videos or short form videos like Reels. And so when you have that loyal and engaged audience, listen to them, take suggestions, answer their questions, And if they'd like to hear about something, take that to heart and maybe make an episode about that too. Now, last part of the planning process, as you're getting ready to launch, if this is a new show or your first one, and you want to do something weekly or regular release cadence, try to have a couple episodes already ready to publish, giving yourself some lead time. When we launched our podcast, we had 2 episodes already recorded and done, and we were recording our 3rd when we launched. This gives you a little bit of runway if you miss a week or you just can't get that edit out in time. So have 2 to 3 episodes ready to go. Then when you publish episode 1, you know you have some time before you need to get the next ones ready. All right, you've done all the planning, you have your artwork, title, your release schedule, you've got all that nailed down. Let's talk about some gear and get ready to record. So to record podcasts, obviously you can do it from your computer, laptop, or desktop, and we're going to go through that. But if all you have is a mobile phone, an iPhone or Android, you can do it with just that device as well. So we'll talk about that process as well. Now, the first piece of gear you should consider is a microphone. There are lots of great options out there, even on a budget. And if you're just starting out, I highly recommend this one. This is the Samson Q2U. This is a USB microphone, and you can connect this to your computer, your iPhone, your iPad, or Android device. And it also has this. This is called an XLR connection, and you would use this with an audio interface. Honestly, USB mics have gotten so good, you can really just stick with these, and this microphone is only $70. It is the best option under $100, and you can even get it in this kit, which includes a little stand, a windscreen, which helps cut down on things like plosives. I'll get to mic technique in a second, and a USB cable to connect it to your devices. I have a co-host that uses a USB microphone just like this one, and we've done it for years, and it sounds great. So if you're just starting out or it's your first microphone, this can last you for years to come. But if you want to get an upgrade pick, I would highly recommend this. This is the Shure MV7 Plus. This is a professional sounding microphone. It also is USB, so it's easy to connect to your devices. You would just connect a USB-C cable here and then to your computer, which we'll do in a second. It also has that XLR connection if you want to use an audio interface, and you plug in your headphones here. That's important. We'll talk about headphones in a second. Now, being a more professional microphone, this is more expensive at $300, but this could be the last microphone you buy if you just want that professional sound right from the start. Both of these microphones are easy to use, doesn't require you to install any software, and they sound great. Now, after your microphone, the next piece of gear I would recommend is actually a microphone stand. Now, the Samson Q2U comes with that little stand, but you want to get the microphone close to your mouth. And many of those stands keep it on the desk, which is not going to provide the best sound. So I use a podcast arm like this one. This is the Elgato low profile mic arm. Keeps the microphone close to my mouth, but remains pretty much out of view. This is about $100. Both microphones I talked about will fit on the end of this arm, and it clamps to a desk. So do make sure you have a place around your desk where it can actually screw in and clamp on. Another style microphone arm is a boom style. This is the Rode PSA1. Highly recommend if you like this style. It's about $130. And you can see I have one here. You can put the microphone wherever you would like it, get it close to your mouth. But this one will be more in the camera. So if you're doing a video podcast, I would go with the low profile arm if that works on your desk. But the boom arm is another good option. Now, if you really wanted to get to that professional level of audio, you can use a microphone with an audio interface. Now, I use the Shure Earthworks ETHOS. Just to give you an idea, this is what a professional sounding microphone can sound like. This is about a $400 microphone. It is XLR, so this needs to go into an audio interface like a Rodecaster Duo or Vocaster 2. I'll show you those in a moment. But this is the kind of sound you can expect. You can also get a Shure SM7B. That's a microphone you see in a lot of video podcasts. It's a good mic. It's very well known, classic. I actually find it to be a little finicky, and it requires way more gear than I think is even needed for professional sound. So if you're looking for those higher end microphones, I would look at the Earthworks ETHOS. You can also look at the Rode PodMic or the RE20. Those are all professional broadcast microphones, and they all sound great. Now, if you want to use a microphone like this, you will need that audio interface. To use an audio interface, you'll have an XLR cable that goes from the microphone, that's what's plugged into the bottom right here, and that will go into your audio interface like the Rodecaster Duo or Pro, and then that audio interface will connect via USB to your computer or device. Now, I know that might be getting a little complicated, and we don't have to go into super detail about this. I actually have an entire video about the best audio interfaces for video podcasts, and honestly, I really think you should just stick with USB mics because they sound really good right now. But if you want to learn more about audio interfaces specifically, I'll put a link to a video where I go into depth on those right up here. So you have your microphone, whether it's a USB microphone or even an XLR and audio interface, and we'll connect those to our computer in a moment. But what about video? If you're launching a new show or trying to grow a podcast, we highly recommend using video. Not only can you then upload that video to YouTube and use it on Spotify for creators, but video right now is one of the best discovery tools, meaning having an audience be able to find your show. And then you can also use that video to make vertical reels and TikTok videos, and then be on all the platforms in a visually engaging manner. And you don't need fancy equipment to start adding video. You can use the device you have in your pocket. This camera is actually going to be better than pretty much all webcams, and it's the camera I would recommend until you're ready to upgrade to a mirrorless camera, or something like a Sony, Canon, or other. I'll show you how to use your phone as a camera in a moment, but all you need to make this effective is a tripod like this. This can cost $20 to $30. You can get tripods with these little phone clamps, mount your phone in this tripod like this, and you can have high quality video just like this. I actually use this setup when I travel, and as you can see, your phone camera can look great and can still provide high quality video. My co-host actually uses his iPhone every week. That's his camera, and that video looks great as well. So I'll show you how to use your iPhone or Android device as a camera, or you can just use the Riverside app on this device and do all your recording and editing right from here. I'll go more into depth about using the Riverside app for mobile devices, but this is a free app that you can use to record and edit your content. The app is easy to use, and you can quickly jump in to start recording, and you can even record with remote guests right here from your mobile device. I'll walk through this whole process in a moment. Now, if you want the highest quality video, you can use what's called a mirrorless camera. I use a Sony a7 IV both to record this video, and I use the same camera for my video podcast. Now, I'll put links to several models that I would recommend. The Sony ZV-E10 is under $1,000 and can look really good. And you can connect that mirrorless camera to your computer several different ways. You can use a USB-C cable and use it in webcam mode, or you can use a video switcher like the Blackmagic ATEM Mini Pro or the Rodecaster Video. Those kinds of cameras are really professional and high-end, but if you'd like to learn more about those, I'll put a video up here and down in the description, and there I talk about those high-end setups, what lenses to get for mirrorless cameras, and more. And speaking of high-end or studio setups, the last piece of the puzzle, especially if you're doing video, is good lighting. Now again, if you're on a budget, a simple $20 light can go a long way. This is a SmallRig LED light. You can change the intensity and color temperature, and just a little light like this, I'll actually use when I travel, and this can look pretty good. Now again, if you want to go to the professional setup, and maybe even what I have here in my studio, I would recommend something like the Amaran 200X light with a light dome. That's that big round dome. And you can use some LED panels for a fill light and key light. A 3-point lighting setup is the professional setup, meaning you have a key light that's off to one side at a 45-degree angle, a fill light off to this side, and maybe a light behind you pointing back towards your head. Again, lighting setups can get pretty advanced if you're wanting to do that professional podcast, but I have videos on that as well. I'll link one up here and down in the description. But keep in mind, you don't need those professional studio setups to get tens of thousands of downloads. You just need to provide value, have a great show, and be consistent in your release schedule. That's really more important. I'll also link one of my full studio tours in the description, because if you have a room you can dedicate to podcast recording, I would recommend things like sound treatment, putting it on the wall to absorb some of that echo and reverb. Most microphones do pretty well not picking that up, but if you really want the best sound possible, I'll link some sound panels in the description, which helps cut down on that background echo. But let's set up our USB microphone and iPhone as our camera so we can get ready to record. So it would be the same process with either of these USB microphones, but I'm going to use the Shure MV7 Plus. All I'm going to do is connect a USB-C cable into the back of the microphone, plug the other end into my laptop or desktop computer, and I'm good to go. The microphone will appear as an audio input and I can select it. Now, if you're going to be recording with remote guests, maybe it's a co-host you record with every week or interview guests, and they're remote, meaning not in the room with you, highly recommend using headphones. Now, you can use wireless headphones like AirPods, but I would actually recommend using wired headphones. They do not have to be expensive. You can get one for $20 or $30, but wired headphones means you don't have to worry about battery life, and more importantly, you can monitor your own voice and hear your remote guest. Now, most USB mics will have a headphone jack on the back, and that's actually where you want to plug in your headphones. You don't need to plug it into your computer, rather plug it into the microphone. Reason why is this will allow you to hear your own voice and your remote guest at the same time. Now, if you're new to podcasting or recording yourself, hearing your own voice can feel a little weird, and that's totally natural. Typically, we hear our voice differently when we just speak regularly as opposed to hearing a recording of our voice. But it's important to hear your own voice while you record. One, because you'll be able to adjust the microphone distance from your mouth, or if there's any background noise or echo, you'll be able to hear it while you record. And it's always better to get a high quality recording free of distractions than trying to edit that out later. So listen to your own voice, you'll get used to it, I promise. So now that we have our USB microphone connected, headphones are plugged into the microphone, let's set up our camera. If you have one of these tripods with a clamp, all you have to do is put your phone in there and you're basically done. If you have an iPhone and a Mac, you can actually choose this as your camera totally wirelessly and without installing any software. I'll show you that in a moment. But if you have an Android device or you use a Windows computer and you'd still like to use your phone as your webcam, I would recommend using the Camo app. You can download it for all the platforms, Windows, Android, and then you can use that mobile device as your camera. This will work with Riverside and across platforms. So either way, you can use your mobile device as your camera. Now, one tip on camera placement. If you're going to put this on a desk and it's pretty low, you want to avoid that up angle. If your camera, your phone, or other is too low, it's not going to be the most pleasing angle. So try to lift it up and get it close to eye level. You can prop it up with some books or some boxes, but you want to try and get the phone at eye level. So do some test recordings, play around with positioning, but you want to make sure it's at a decent height. So you have your microphone connected, your phone or other camera ready. Now let's jump into record. So whether you're recording with a co-host or interview guest remotely, or even doing solo content, the best way to record is Riverside. Yes, that's also me on the homepage. But Riverside lets you record high quality video and audio no matter where you are, and even through the mobile app, which we'll talk about in a minute. And you can record and edit completely for free. Plus there's a bunch of AI tools that can help you create those vertical videos, edit quickly, and do it all as a solo creator. Which I forgot to mention, I do all of my podcast production myself. I don't have a team or editors, and I'm able to do it all solo because of Riverside. So let's jump in and learn to record. Go to riverside.fm and you can create a free account there and just go to login. If it's your first time using Riverside, click sign up and you can use your Google, Apple, or Spotify login or sign up with your email. Again, creating an account is free and you can record and edit all for free also. Once you log in, you'll be on the Home tab for your Riverside account. This is known as your Riverside Studio. And here you have your Home tab, which has recent recordings and edits, projects, which I create a new project every episode. But projects are a great way to organize media that you might upload from your phone or other places. You can always create a new project by clicking New, titling it, and then starting a recording or uploading media. You can also schedule future recordings and invite remote guests. Now, let's say you're going to record with someone like a co-host or remote guest. Well, you can get what we call the guest link for your Riverside Studio down here in the bottom left. Click Invite to Record, and this guest link is what you would send your co-host, interview guest, or someone you want to record with you. You can also put their email address here and send them an invite via email. They'll get the link and some instructions to join Riverside. Remember, to record with Riverside, you'll need to use Google Chrome web browser or Microsoft Edge. Let's go back up to the Home tab and jump in to record our first podcast. I'll click the record button here, and here is where you'll choose your microphone, camera, and speaker output. Now, if you were using your iPhone and a Mac for your camera here, you should see your iPhone appear as one of the options. All you have to do is click it, and now your back iPhone camera is being used here in Riverside. Now, as you can see, that up angle again is not the best. So you'll want to prop up your iPhone, try to get it to eye level for the best camera angle. Now, I'm actually using a video switcher and a mirrorless camera, so I'm going to choose that from this drop-down menu. Now, if you wanted to, you could always use the built-in webcam on your display or your computer, but your mobile device camera is going to be significantly better than that built-in webcam. Plus, you can then put it on a tripod and elevate it. Now, for our microphone and speaker, we're going to choose our USB microphone. That's the Shure MV7 Plus that I have connected to my computer. Now, because we plugged our headphones into the USB mic, I'm going to choose the microphone, the Shure MV7 Plus, as my speaker output as well. This way I'll hear my remote guest and my own voice through the microphone. So this is what your Riverside options should look like. Your iPhone or built-in webcam as the camera, and the USB mic as the microphone and speaker. Now here on the left, type in your name. This will be used both in the transcript and you'll see it in the studio in a moment. Choose I'm using headphones. Make sure those are plugged into the USB mic and you have them on. And then we'll click Join Studio. Now this is where the magic happens. This is the Riverside Studio where you'll record your audio and or video podcast. Now, if you need that guest link to invite the remote guest, you can copy it right here or invite by email, still here in the studio. Keep in mind this guest link stays the same every time, so you can put that guest link in a recurring calendar invite or use it in a service like Calendly, and that link will stay the same so people can join your studio in the future. Now, if you wanted to record an audio-only podcast, you can turn off the camera. I can just click the camera icon down here at the bottom, and I'm still recording high-quality audio. But remember, you have way more flexibility and can repurpose your content in many ways when you include that video. So we would encourage you, leave that camera on, even if you don't plan to post the full video episode, so you can at least use it for social media. Now, the Riverside Studio has many tools for things like live streaming, sharing video and audio clips while you record. You can do that in the media board, upload files there. You can also add your brand, like I have my custom background image here, changing the fonts, and more. If you want to learn more about all the tools available to you in the Riverside Studio, I'll link a video down in the description. But one tool I recommend using, especially if you're doing a video podcast, is sharing your screen. Down here, you'll see the share button. And here you can share your screen, either one of your open tabs, you can share a window, or an entire secondary display. And when you share your screen, Riverside actually records that in high quality and puts it together for you in the editor. Typically what I do is I'll have multiple tabs open for news stories that I'll be talking about, and I share those as I'm talking while recording. This way I have visually engaging elements throughout my episode, and I don't have to edit it later. It's just in the recording. Now, when your guest or co-host joins you here in the studio and you're ready to record, just click the record button down here at the bottom. You'll get a 5-second countdown, and once it hits 0, you're being recorded in high quality. And the Riverside magic is you and any remote guest or co-host is recorded locally on device, meaning the video and audio is being saved right now to your computer or mobile device, and then those files are uploaded to your dashboard to access later. Any internet freezes or blips or bandwidth drops, it won't affect your video or audio recording. That's what sets Riverside apart from other tools like Zoom. And you even get that high quality recording for your screen shares and media files you might be using. Now, a couple microphone and camera tips while recording. I'm going to switch to my Ethos microphone right here. And if you're just starting out to podcasting or just want to get the best audio quality possible, mic technique is really important. As you're recording, make sure you're not too close to the microphone. You might think that getting really close, and you might see some podcasters do this, makes better audio. But as you can tell, you hear more mouth sounds and it's just not as easy to listen to. You also don't want to be too far away from the microphone. This is why getting a mic arm so it gets close to your mouth is better than having the microphone on the desk, couple feet away. Having the microphone closer to your mouth, but not too close, will get you that best audio quality. A rule of thumb is try to keep a fist length distance, 4 to 5 inches from your mouth to the microphone. I also like putting the microphone at a 45-degree angle away from my mouth, so I'm almost talking over it. That's going to help reduce some of the plosives. So when I say P's and B's, it doesn't hit as hard. You'll see P's and B's or P's and B's. You'll see it's better kind of speaking a little over it. And these microphone techniques are true for any microphone, whether you're using this or the Shure MV7 Plus that I recommended earlier. Then a tip on camera technique. You have it at eye level, so you have a nice pleasing angle. You also want to make sure to look in the camera as much as possible. Now, if you're referring to notes or looking at your guest, it's okay to look away from the camera. But remember, if you're going to be publishing the video version of the podcast, to connect with your audience, it's best to look directly at the camera. This entire video, I've been doing that, looking at the camera as much as I can. That's going to help you connect with your viewers and help them stay engaged with you throughout the episode. Now, I typically have some show notes when I record a podcast. Me and my co-host will collaborate. We'll go through those notes, and I'll have those up next to Riverside as I'm recording. I actually use Notion for that, and I have a whole video on Notion templates for getting ready to podcast or produce solo content video. I'll link that video down in the description as well. But go through your run of show, stay engaging, focus on what's valuable to the audience. Remember your passion versus expertise and whether you're educating, entertaining, or inspiring, and record a great episode. When you're first starting out, also don't worry about mistakes, long pauses, or filler words. I'm going to show you some tools to use to get rid of those easily and quickly. Now, when you're done recording your episode, click the stop button down here in the Riverside Studio, and you'll see your video and audio files and your remote guests will upload to your dashboard. You'll see that progress down there at the bottom. And when they're done uploading, you're ready to edit your content. Now, as you become more experienced in recording, you might want to consider live streaming, which you can do in Riverside for free. You can set up different live stream destinations right here in your studio, connecting YouTube channels, Twitch accounts, and actually go live directly here on Riverside. Live streaming a podcast is a great way to engage your audience even more, where they can provide real-time live comments and feedback, you can answer questions live, and more. We have lots of videos on live streaming, both how to do it with Riverside and some ways to make your live streams engaging. I'll link some of those videos down below as well. Now, what if you wanted to do all that, record high-quality video and audio right from your mobile device? Well, let's go back to the Riverside app because we can do that here. Here in the Riverside app, I'll tap Create at the bottom, and let's jump into Record. On your iPhone or Android device, make sure your portrait orientation is unlocked because you want to be able to rotate your device horizontally. Now, you can still record with remote guests from your mobile device. You can tap the invite button here and share that guest link to record with someone. We can also use the same microphone, the Shure MV7 Plus, with our iPhone. I'm going to plug in the USB microphone right here to my device, and we should see a pop-up window. When you see this pop-up, we're actually going to tap No, because we're using headphones connected to the microphone, and we want to hear our remote guest. Then you're actually ready to record right here from the Riverside app. Tap the red button, you'll see the same countdown you'll see on a desktop computer, and you're being recorded in high-quality video and audio right here from your mobile device, just like you would be from the desktop. You can record with your remote guests, and when you're done recording, just tap the stop button. The files are uploaded on mobile, just like they are on the desktop, and then you can edit them right here on mobile as well. We'll talk about mobile editing in a little bit, or you can jump to that chapter below. Going back to our Riverside dashboard, we'll see all of our recordings under our projects page. You'll see that new podcast recording we just did is right here, and all my previous episodes. I'm going to jump into an episode where I had my co-host and did some screen shares so we can see the whole editing process. When I go into one of my past projects, you'll see our projects page is separated into multiple tabs. You'll have recordings where you'll see those individual files and you can download them on the standard or pro plan. Here's my video and audio, my co-host, and clicking high quality, I can download those individual raw video files and raw audio files. But I'm going to edit everything right here in Riverside because it's way faster. This is how I do my podcast too. Any screen shares you did throughout the recording are also here in your studio, and you could download those separately. Now, when you record with Riverside, you also get a Made for You tab, which basically edits your content with AI for you, and you can start with that magic episode. Gives you a great head start, but we'll do an edit from scratch in just a moment. Also, on our higher tiers, you get AI-generated show notes, which you can use for YouTube tags, takeaways, bullet points, summary of the episode, all generated for you here in Riverside. This is also where you can make magic clips, which are great for repurposing your content, which we'll talk about in a little bit. As you make different edits for your full episode or individual clips, those will be under the Edits tab. And when you're done editing and export a clip, audio or video, those are under the Exports tab. Let's go back to the Made for You tab, and let's begin editing our content. To start from scratch, we can go up to the Create button, and then let's jump in to Edit. And this is the Riverside Editor. You have powerful tools for editing via transcript, which you see here on the left-hand side. You can just select text and delete it, and you've edited your video and audio. You can search the transcript up here, and you still see the waveform and timeline if you're used to that kind of editing. But what really expedites the whole process are the AI tools that makes editing super fast. Now, whether you had an audio-only or video podcast, you still have access to these tools. This is what it looks like if you did an audio-only recording. You still get the transcript to edit here, and you still get the AI producer tools here in the top right corner. So the editing process is the same for both audio and video. So going into the AI producer, the first thing I do is remove pauses. This way, if there were extended periods of silence, or you just want to increase the pace of your recording, you can click apply. There's even a slider here where you can make the pace fast or really fast, or slow down the pace. For vertical videos and social media clips, I typically go super fast, but for my full episode, I typically leave it right here. We'll even tell you how many pauses and how much time is cut. After remove pauses, you can actually remove filler words with a single click. Apply here, and you remove all the ums, filler words, and awkward sounds. Now, one of the key parts of editing is if there was superfluous content, small talk, or just things that didn't provide a lot of value, I would recommend cutting that out. Think about your first-time listener. They might not know you, they've never heard the podcast before, so if you have a special guest or a topic in the title of your episode, be sure to get to it right away. Don't make someone wait 5 or 10 minutes just to hear the subject matter of your episode. And if you're not sure what to cut, we actually have a Find Fluff feature, and that Find Fluff feature will point out the small talk and suggest to remove it. Now, let's say you didn't have a USB microphone and you used a built-in mic, or maybe your guest just used their AirPods. Well, you can apply Magic Audio, which will enhance audio for you or your remote guests, remove background noise and echo, and you can apply it for individuals here. And we even have a slider to choose how much Magic Audio to apply. Play around with that slider if it sounds too processed, but if you need to remove some background noise or there was echo, Magic Audio is the way to go. Another feature I use is called Smart Mute. Smart Mute will mute someone's track when they're not speaking. Riverside is really good at recognizing this. I apply this to all my episodes, and it really helps it sound clean. When you apply smart layouts, you actually get a multicam look, where it will switch between the active speaker full screen, go between you and your guest during those in-between moments or crosstalk, and then go back to focusing on the active speaker. This gives you that multicam look with a single click. Finally, we're adding new features to our AI producer all the time. One of the most recent is eye contact, which will help fix the eyes to make sure you're looking at the camera the whole time, and some more great features coming soon. Get subscribed to the YouTube channel here because I cover all the features on the channel. Now, if you go back to the Made for You tab in the projects page, all of those AI edits would be automatically applied, even saving you those clicks. Gives you a really far head start in editing your content. Now, if you want to change the look of your video, maybe you'd like to apply a brand like a logo, color palette, or background image, you can set your brand here. I actually have a background design, and I apply captions when it's a vertical aspect ratio. So I'll click Apply Brand, and I'm good to go. If you ever wanted to switch who appears in what position of your video, you can just click and drag, move it around, and you're done. We also have multiple layout options. You can choose how picture-in-picture is formatted, the typical side-by-side, put one person in a circle in the corner, and more. You can choose all these layouts, and you can even add new scenes and change the layout as many times as you would like. To add a new scene, just click the New Scene button here. Then you can go back to Layout, choose something different, and Riverside will go between those layouts across the scenes throughout your recording. Now, if you'd like to add background music, maybe as an intro or in the middle of your episode, we actually have a royalty-free library of audio right here, and you can even upload your own audio. You can click the upload button here, and you'll see I have a podcast intro uploaded, and I'll add that right here to my edit. I can drag it all the way to the beginning, click the 3 dots, and then I can adjust the volume to make sure it's underneath our speaking, and fade it in and fade it out. Or you can use any of the royalty-free audio you see here in the library. You can also add animated captions. We have lots of styles to choose from, or you can customize the style once you add it. You can choose how you highlight the active word, the color background, font, size, and more. I make sure to add animated captions to any vertical clip that I might make, which if you want to quickly change the format, you can go up here, click 9:16. Now you have a vertically formatted video, great for social media. This is why you might want to create multiple edits of your episode so you can make clips like this, or yes, Riverside can do that for you with our Magic Clips feature. More on that in a second. If you wanted to upload images, audio, or even video clips to overlay, you can do that here in the Uploads portion. You see I have lots of static images, I can add videos, and when I click one of the videos, it gets overlaid right here on my recording. You can adjust the volume to make sure it's muted, and when I play this, you'll see now it's showing the B-roll. Our animated captions are still right there on top of the video, and then it'll go back to me and my co-host. This way you can make really visually engaging content with B-roll, image overlays, audio, and more. If you find you needed to record something and insert it into your episode, maybe like a sponsor break, I can actually split the timeline. I would do that by clicking the split tool here on the left. And now, whenever I roll my mouse over those splits, I can click the plus icon and choose one of my other Riverside recordings or edits, or even record something new, and it'll insert right here into our current edit. Finally, you have your image overlays, video overlays, which you can also search for royalty-free B-roll and add it throughout your recording, and text overlays as well. Great for titles, chapter names, and more. Now, if we want to make some granular edits to our content, I would go right here to the transcript. And let's say I want to remove this section. I'll just select the text as if it were a Word document, click the trash can, and I've edited my content. That's it. The video and audio are gone. I can always undo by using the undo tool here, but I could go through the transcript, editing my content, and even search for a specific moment. Let's say there's a clip I want to pull, or I know there's something that needs to be edited. Well, I can search for that term, scroll through all the search results, and when I find that moment, I can select the text, click delete, and I've edited my content again. If you want to get really granular on the edits, you can also expand the tracks. You can click this tool here and see both your track and your co-host, and you see all the audio waveforms down here. And if you wanted to cut more or maybe bring something back, you can just drag the in and out points on those audio waveforms, and you're getting some real granular edits. And we have even more advanced audio tools to get things sounding just how you want. If you go up to the tracks tool here, go to one of the guests, either you or your remote guest. You can adjust the volume manually, apply Magic Audio, which we talked about, and you can even apply equalization. When you toggle this on, we have some presets like crisp and clear or voice boost. This way, depending on the microphone or the guest, you can make sure they sound perfect. And you can even click this open equalizer option, and now you have a custom equalizer that you can adjust manually right here. That's really some advanced podcast and audio editing. If you're new to this, we would recommend using one of the presets, see how it sounds, and you can always change it later. Now, if I collapse these multiple tracks, you'll also see down here above the timeline, Riverside automatically puts chapter markers. These are really useful because one, you can navigate via those chapter markers here, jumping to a specific topic. You can also copy those chapters timestamps and paste them in a YouTube video description. This way your YouTube video can have the chapters as well. Click the three dots right here, and you can copy the chapters list to your clipboard. And when you're done editing, before you export, you can download the transcript and subtitles of your episode. You can use that for your podcast host or upload the subtitles to YouTube. We'll talk about publishing your content with your podcast host, YouTube, and Spotify for Creators in just a moment. If you wanted to adjust any of the chapters, you can click the three dots down here in the timeline, rename it, remove it, or delete content. We'll actually delete the video and audio that are in that chapter. I'll remove this chapter, and maybe we want to add another chapter. Well, we can use the Add Chapter tool here, or we can click here in the transcript and click Add, and here you can see you can add a text overlay, music overlay, or a new scene or chapter. Click Add New Chapter, then you can rename it and have the chapters match your content directly. If you need to correct the transcript, just select text, click Correct, and type the correction. You can also create a new edit based on the text you had selected, which is great for creating short clips. You can also cut, copy, or duplicate the text, which actually copies and duplicates the video and audio. This would be great to make an intro for your episode. One of the keys to drawing in an audience and hooking them is having a great introduction that teases content later in the episode. Whether it was a great line that your guest said or something really funny or interesting, copy and paste that at the beginning of your episode, almost like it's a trailer for the rest of your content. Let's say I wanted to have this at the very beginning. I can click the three dots, go to the very beginning of the transcript, and then click Paste, and I've now brought that content, copied it to the very beginning. Do that with some engaging moments, and then you can have some fast, hooky lines right there at the beginning, making sure the audience sticks around for the whole episode. Now that you have your chapters set, you've created a hook at the beginning, and you've edited your content, you're ready to export it. You need to export it. This way you can upload it to your podcast host, upload to YouTube, and more. When you have a video version, go up to Export here in the top right. Depending on your plan, you can export up to 4K video. That's what I do for my podcast. Depending on your plan, you can remove the watermark. If you didn't adjust the volume manually, you could try toggling that on, or if you prefer the manual adjustments. And if you didn't apply Magic Audio, but you notice some background noise, you can try to toggle that on export as well. Then when you click Export Video, you'll get the option to either continue editing or to go to your exports. If you want to export an audio version of this edit to upload to your podcast host, which is how it gets to Apple Podcasts and apps like Overcast, choose Keep Editing, and then it keeps all of our same edits. Everything is still in place. And then I'll go back up to Export and choose Audio. Now I can choose an MP3 file, which is what you want to upload to your podcast host, and then export an audio-only version. And now you have all the files you need to publish your episode. Now let's go to our exports. You see files that you have currently exporting, like the video and audio versions we have. Those will be grayed out until they're done processing. Any previous exports you'll see down here. And when you're ready, you can download them to your computer by clicking the download button here. You can also click the share button and you get lots of options on where to send that file. If you're going to host your podcast on Spotify for Creators, which we'll talk about in a moment, you can publish it to Spotify right here from Riverside. You don't even need to download it. The same with Transistor and Castos, which are podcast hosts. You can also copy a link to this export. This way someone else can download it. And depending on your plan, you can actually generate show notes based on this edit. This way those show notes are generated just on the content that you intend. You can also preview your export right here in your dashboard. And remember, you can do everything from your mobile device as well. If you go to the Riverside app here on your iPhone or Android device, you'll see all your same recordings that you see on your desktop here on mobile. You can go into one of your past recordings, you can preview it here, see any edits you've already made or exports that you want to download on your phone, but you can also edit it right here from your device. You get the same full transcript right here on mobile. I can change the format by tapping here. If I wanted to trim the in and out point, I can just use the trim tool and move that back and forth. You also see a live preview of the transcript changing. This way you know exactly where that in or out point may lie. And if you want to edit even more granularly, you can go into the cut tool, and here you can select individual words or phrases. You can also change the size that you're looking at if you want to delete whole paragraphs. This way you can edit your podcast right here from your phone. When you're done editing here, you can tap the share button, and just like on desktop, you can export a video file, or tap up here at the top and just export an audio file. Once it's done exporting, you'll see those exports here on your mobile dashboard. You can still jump in, preview it here on mobile, and then download it to your mobile device right here. Then you can upload it using the YouTube app or just use the web browser on your mobile device, and you've edited and published right here on mobile. If you'd like to see editing on mobile even more in depth or use your iPad to record, edit, and publish, I have videos on that too. I'll link them down in the description. So now that you've recorded, edited, and you have your files, both video and audio, where do you publish them so your audience can discover your content? Well, to publish the audio version so it goes to Apple Podcasts and other apps, you need to have a podcast host. You can try podcast hosts like Transistor.fm, and another great option is Buzzsprout. Some of the benefits of these other podcast hosts are dedicated websites that you get to represent your podcast, using custom episode artwork, and other features. To use a host like Transistor.fm, you would choose Configure a New Podcast, you would title the show, description, those things that we talked about at the beginning of this video, add your podcast artwork, choose your category, and fill out all this information. When you click Create My Podcast, then you'll be able to upload a new episode. Once you've set up your podcast and you create a new episode, this is where you would do an episode title. And you might see podcasts try to be funny with their titles or make them inside jokes. I would recommend make your title accessible to people, meaning whatever the subject matter is of that episode, make it curiosity-driving and engaging. Audio file will be that MP3 file that you download from your Riverside exports. Then, with some podcast hosts like Transistor, you can upload that optional episode artwork that represents that single episode. Then, for your episode show notes, you can add a couple sentences describing the topics, and maybe add some links of interest. Just to give you some ideas, this is what my podcast website looks like through Transistor. If I go to my latest episode, you'll see the title of the episode here. Try to be curiosity driving, but still let people know what was in the episode. And then you'll see these show notes. I get pretty robust. That's the description of the episode, but we have sponsors. We also link to things like our YouTube channel. We have a private community and links to all the topics we talked about as well. Depending on your topic and the feel of your show notes could be short, long, or however you'd like. If you're uploading your podcast to YouTube, which I'll show you in a moment, you can add that YouTube URL here. This way it gets embedded in the website. And you can also upload the transcript that you download from Riverside. This way the transcript will be more accurate in apps like Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Then you can publish this episode or schedule it to publish later. So that's how you would add new episodes in your podcast host. But how does it get to Apple Podcasts and Spotify? Well, podcast hosts like Transistor and Buzzsprout, you can go to Distribution, and here it will submit your show for you, both to Spotify, to Apple, Amazon, and more. This way you don't have to manage your show in those other places. You can just submit it all here through the podcast host, and it will be live for everyone to listen to. Remember, this is the audio-only version. Now, if you want to manage your podcast more granularly in Apple Podcasts and Spotify specifically, you can go to their websites. Let's cover Spotify first. For Spotify, go to creators.spotify.com. You can also host your show on Spotify directly, and that's completely free. So Spotify is a podcast host, and it's also a podcast distribution platform. If you already have a Spotify account, you can log in with that or sign up for free. If you want to host with Spotify and see that whole process, I have a video specifically on that. I'll link it down in the description. You can also add a new show, whether to host on Spotify or submit that RSS feed from your podcast host by adding a new show here. Creating a new show will start it hosting on Spotify directly, or find an existing show And if you want to use that RSS feed from your podcast host, which for reference, this is your RSS feed if you host it in Transistor, Buzzsprout also provides that RSS feed, you would choose somewhere else and then paste the RSS feed link right here. You'll get an email to confirm that you are the owner of that RSS feed, and then you can manage your podcast here in Spotify for Creators. The other place you'll want to submit your RSS feed is Apple Podcasts. Again, your host may do that for you like Transistor or Buzzsprout, but if you want to log in directly, you can manage it here as well. You would go to podcastconnect.apple.com. Here, you log in with an Apple ID you already have, or you can create a new one. And if it's your first time on this page, you would click the plus icon here in the top left, and you can choose New Show. Like on Spotify, you would add a show with an RSS feed, paste the RSS feed here, Apple will approve it, confirm ownership, and then your podcast will be live in Apple Podcasts. Now, once you set up your show in Spotify for Creators and Apple Podcasts, you don't have to return to those platforms to manage future episodes. As you add episodes in your podcast host, whether that's Transistor or Buzzsprout or Spotify for Creators, those new episodes will distribute everywhere automatically. You don't have to return to these platforms to manage it. You just work with your podcast hosting provider. No matter where you host your podcast, once you have it in your Spotify for Creators account, you can upload a video for every episode. So here on my podcast, Primary Technology, I'll go to the Episodes tab, and as I add new episodes to my host, they'll appear here in Spotify for Creators. Then for any episode here in Spotify, I can click the three dots and choose to upload the full-length video. That means someone can then watch or listen to my podcast in Spotify. And due to Spotify's changes, which I made a whole video about recently, I'll link that below too, video is really prioritized in the Spotify app. They even make clips of your episode automatically and may show the video in the Browse and Discover tabs of Spotify. Again, this is a huge discovery tool, especially if you're trying to grow your show. So I would highly recommend adding the video here in your Spotify for Creators account. And you can also upload a vertical clip, and that'll be in the feed for Spotify users as well. You can also jump into a specific episode to see details. You'll see the full-length video. You can even upload a custom thumbnail, which you should do for YouTube and Spotify. And you can go over to that clip section and upload those vertical clips. Riverside makes it really easy to make those. I'll show you that in a moment too. Of course, the primary place to upload the video version of your podcast is YouTube. Now, you can create a new channel specifically for your podcast, or if you already have a YouTube channel, you could upload the videos there and create a playlist that becomes a podcast. I'll show you that in a minute. Many people who already have a YouTube channel ask whether they should upload the video episodes to their current channel or create a new one. Here's the rule of thumb. If the audience for your podcast is the same audience or very similar to that of your other content, then add it to the same channel. If you talk about business investment like real estate and you have solo videos about it, and that's exactly what your podcast is about, you can put it all on the same channel because it appeals to the same audience. But let's say you have a fashion YouTube channel and you're doing a podcast about technology, I would create a second channel just for the podcast. Now, I created a channel specifically for the podcast here on YouTube, and you can do that completely for free. Just log in with your Google account on youtube.com, and you can create a channel totally for free. You'll need the same kind of artwork, like your podcast artwork for your channel here, and you can also create a channel banner. Here on YouTube, you can create a channel, name, use the handle, and follow the steps to complete the process. Then to add new episodes, you would go to your YouTube studio. You can get there quickly by going to studio.youtube.com. Here in YouTube, to create a new episode, you would click Create here at the top, and then Upload Video. This is where you'll upload that video file you downloaded from Riverside. So for example, I would go to my Riverside dashboard, go to my exports, download my latest episode, save it to my computer, and then choose that file to upload it here on YouTube. That's how I would add new episodes. Then as your episode is uploading, title your episode. I use the same title for my audio version as my video. I use the same description. And then for your show notes, if you're going to include any links, keep in mind that YouTube requires you to put the full URL. You can't do rich text or linked text like you can with your podcast host. Then, if you want to make sure that YouTube knows this video is actually a podcast episode, under playlists, add it to a playlist that you designate as a podcast. You can do this in your YouTube studio setting. If you go to your content and then over to playlists, you can mark a playlist as a podcast. Click the three dots, choose Set as Podcast, and that tells YouTube this playlist is all podcast episodes. You'll see here you can even add your episode artwork, your podcast title and description, just like you do from your podcast host. And this information with the artwork will actually appear in the YouTube Music app. So now those who use that app can listen and watch your podcast. That's another great discovery tool because both the video and audio will be in YouTube Music. And another rule of thumb, when you're trying to grow a podcast, you just want to be in as many places as possible. So that includes being in YouTube Music, Spotify for Creators, everywhere. Then you'll also see on your actual YouTube channel, if you were to go to playlists, you'll see a playlist is marked as a podcast here, and you'll also get a podcast tab because you marked that playlist specifically. Then someone can view your full podcast and they'll see all the episodes right here in a row. So you've published the audio to your host, you have the RSS feed distributing to Apple and Spotify, you have the video published on Spotify and YouTube, and now that the episode is out there, it's time to promote your podcast and find that audience. Let's go back into one of our Riverside recordings, and under the Made For You tab in the project, you might already see multiple magic clips created. If you don't see those or would like to generate more, go up to the Create button here in the top right, and then choose Magic Clips. From here, depending on your plan, you can choose how long you want these clips to be. I typically go between 30 and 60 seconds. You can decide what format, pace, and all those other settings, and then that will be the default for future magic clips in this studio. You can even choose to focus on a speaker or type in a topic that you really want to create clips for, and then click Generate Clips. After just a few moments, you'll have multiple vertical videos ready to repurpose across Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, TikTok, and more. When it comes to finding your audience, sharing these vertical clips is a great way to reach new people who don't already listen to your podcast, get them interested, and hopefully transition them to either watching or listening to your full episodes. After a few moments, you can then preview these magic clips right here in your Riverside dashboard, and if you'd like, you can jump in to further edit this magic clip. I'll click the edit button underneath this one, and now we have me and my co-host side by side with a screen share, animated captions, and this clip is basically ready to go. If I wanted to, I can adjust that layout just like when we were editing the full episode. Maybe I'd like to go side by side with just me and my co-host. Well, I can choose what appears in each box, center the captions, and now I've reformatted it, and maybe I like that better and I can use this as a clip. Remember, editing is just like before. You can select text and then delete it. And once this clip is ready, just go up to export and export it just like your full episodes. Then under your exports on the project page, you'll see all those vertical clips that you can then download and then share across all the different social media platforms. Now, what we do for our podcast is when we publish the full-length episode, which is every Thursday, we won't publish those vertical videos. But the other 6 days of the week, we'll publish those short videos. So 6 shorts per week and 1 full-length episode. And these shorts will get varying views, sometimes hundreds, sometimes thousands, but these are the discovery engine for people to find your podcast when they're just scrolling on social media. So share that same clip here in YouTube Shorts, share it on Instagram Reels, TikTok, and even LinkedIn, Threads, and other social media platforms. Again, you want to be everywhere. Now, Riverside has another great tool for creating those clips, which we call our co-creator. Here on the project page, you can find the co-creator here in the top right corner, and you can ask it for lots of things. View all the suggestions, and you can see the co-creator will recommend episode titles, descriptions, even show notes. We can try an episode title real quick, choose one of the main ideas that co-creator found via the transcript, and we can ask it to give us 5 options for a title. Then we can chat with co-creator and ask it for even more specific options. I'm going to go back to suggestions though, because we can ask it for a highlight clip of this episode. If I ask it for a highlight clip, I can choose what topic I want to center around. Let's choose WWDC. I'll send that. And after a few moments, it's going to generate another clip that I can use, share it on social media as a trailer for this episode, and it's doing it all for me with just a few clicks. I can preview the clip here. You see it already put those animated captions, and I can jump into the editor, make it vertical or square, and then export that to share as well. Co-creator also comes in handy when you want to write social media posts about the episode to promote. You can even ask it for things like a blog post, a newsletter email, LinkedIn post, and more. Let's choose LinkedIn post, choose a different topic that we want to focus on, and we'll ask co-creator to write it for us. And now we have a full LinkedIn post. We can copy and paste, adjust it how we want, include a link to our episode, and it's a great way to promote your content. We'll talk more about promoting in just a moment, but co-creator is going to be a powerful resource for you. So now that you have vertical clips, posts that you're ready to share, where do you get the word out for your podcast? There's lots of different ways to do it, and again, do as many as you can, because being everywhere is how you can find that audience. So number one, social media. Whatever platforms that you're active on, whether it's Threads, Mastodon, Blue Sky, or X, post about every new episode when it goes live. You'll see I do that here on Threads as well as my other social media, and I'll post links to the Apple Podcast episode, the episode on Spotify, and the YouTube link. This way, whether my audience wants to listen or watch the episode, they have all the links in one place. You can also just share the one link to your website, whether that's through Transistor, Buzzsprout, or another service, and then someone can click their podcast listening app of choice right here. I like to limit the amount of clicks it takes someone to get to my episode, namely one click. That's why I put those separate links in my social media post. Again, share those vertical videos for YouTube Shorts, TikTok, Instagram Reels, and even platforms like Threads and LinkedIn, because they can handle video as well. You'll see all of our vertical videos here, and we generate those clips for every episode. Another strategy is to start building an email list for your podcast listeners and viewers. We actually have an email list that will automatically send our show notes via email to people who subscribe. When someone's listening in their car, or there was a link we talked about and we said it was in the show notes, but they couldn't visit it right then while they're listening, now they'll get this email. That's a plus for sponsors because they get included as well. But then someone can go back and look at all the links that we included in the show notes, plus they're on our email list. Now we have a more direct way of communicating with our audience. A strategy there is in your show notes for every episode, include a link to subscribe. I use MailChimp, which is free up to several thousand contacts, and then someone could sign up to get the show notes via email while we simultaneously build our email list of audience members. And depending on your podcast topic and niche, LinkedIn might be a great place to share about your episodes and upload videos. For instance, Stephen Bartlett, the host of Diary of a CEO, he has lengthy posts on his LinkedIn about episodes and guests, plus he has vertical videos right here on the post. So again, be everywhere and don't sleep on platforms like LinkedIn that might help you reach an audience you won't find in other social media platforms. Now, you could consider paid advertisement for your podcast as well. That might be Instagram or Facebook ads, maybe LinkedIn or TikTok ads, but I would actually recommend, if you're going to spend any money, focus it on ads where podcast listeners already are. For instance, Overcast, which is a podcast app that many iPhone users can download for free. It's one of the top podcast apps. You can actually purchase ads in the Overcast app. And what's great is people are already listening to podcasts here in the app. Plus, when it comes to advertising dollars, these can be pretty affordable ads. I've actually done this a couple times and found it to be fairly effective. Plus, you can target your category specifically, which is better than just blasting across social media and on platforms where people might not be listening. There's also lots of podcast-specific newsletters out there, like the Earbuds Podcast Collective, and Pod News, which has over 30,000 readers and talks about podcasting specifically. You can take out ads in these newsletters, and again, you're reaching the specific audience of podcast listeners. So if you're going to spend any advertising dollars, I would focus on platforms like these first, podcast-specific newsletters, apps like Overcast, before doing things like Facebook or Instagram ads. So you've made your clips, you're promoting them on social media and YouTube and LinkedIn and all of that. You're building your email list and maybe even doing some paid advertisement. So how do we grow now over time and get that 10,000 downloads? Well, one of the biggest elements is being consistent. We talked about release cadence before and how the biggest podcasts have that weekly cycle. Really work at being consistent in your release schedule and constantly delivering those new episodes and new content. But there's another way to grow your show, which is to invite big guests that are in your niche and your topic onto your show. Ideally, their audience will tune in for that episode, and if you provide that value and have engaging content, they might stick around. I'll show you an example. We typically don't have guests on our podcast, Primary Technology, and you can see our episodes were getting around 3,000 downloads each. We then had a special guest. His name was John Gruber. He's big in the Apple community. He has his own podcast, and you'll see we had a pretty big jump. It added over 2,000 listeners just for that one episode. But look at the numbers of the episodes after that. You'll see now we're consistently over 3,000, closer to that 3,500 number. Having one big guest who is in your niche and appeals to your audience and your content appeals to their audience will help new people discover your show. So aim for those big guests. Don't be afraid to cold email and contact them. And that can slowly help grow your show over time. So how do you land those big guests? Well, I'm going to show you a specific example where I actually landed an interview with the co-founder of Pixar Animation Studios. Yes, that Pixar. It started with a cold email and it ended with an interview where I got to talk to Ed Catmull. In my very first email to him, I introduced who I was, the kind of show I was trying to make. I'd recently read his book, Creativity Inc., and loved it, so mentioned that in the email, and even sent him my website. This way he could see I'm a legitimate person with an actual podcast. Now, he was very busy at the time, but did reply to my email. But over the course of the next year, we were able to arrange the interview. I did it and landed one of my biggest guests. Now, you might cold email them if you can find their contact info, messaging them on LinkedIn or DMing through social media. Be brief, people are busy, and just keeping it as short as possible with just the key information is ideal. Number 2, make sure you explain who you are and add some credibility, like you've done this many episodes or other big interview guests you've had, to show that it's legitimate podcast, legitimate interviews. And number 3, make it easy for someone to book a time to record with you. One way to do that is to use a service like Calendly, which I had here in an email. This way he could choose a time that worked for him, and all the Riverside information I put in that Calendly invite. The link to join, instructions about what web browser to use, and it was very easy to get it done. So don't be afraid to cold contact and email those big guests, because they're going to help you grow your show, and hopefully they'll get some audience members too for whatever content or book that they're writing, videos they're making, and so forth. And finally, another way to get the word out about your show is the people who already listen and watch. Those are already your faithful audience members, and they can become brand ambassadors. For instance, for my movie podcast, Movies on the Side, it's not a huge show, but we have really faithful listeners and viewers. So we incentivized our audience to share about the podcast on their personal social media, and if they did, we would send them some merch. So we created some merch, some mugs, and some t-shirts, and our most faithful listeners and audience members became brand ambassadors for the podcast. You can create a merch store relatively easily, and you don't have to pre-buy a bunch of merch to have it ready to sell. A quick tip, the service I use is called Printful. You can design many templates, shirts, hats, bags, even phone cases, and then you can ship them on demand, so you don't have to invest in a bunch of merch right up front, and then you can pay for products as they're ordered. Plus, this can integrate with websites from Squarespace or Shopify, so you can have your own merch store right out of the box. All right, we're in the home stretch. You're publishing episodes consistently, you're sharing on social media, it's growing because of guests and brand ambassadors sharing about your podcast. So the final step, can you monetize your show? Yes, you can do it even if you're at a small number of downloads. There's 5 main ways you can monetize your podcast. Now, the thing about sponsors is they really only consider shows with a higher number of downloads. You need about 5,000 downloads per episode. Really, 10,000 is the ideal number for sponsors to take a look at your show. Now, many times sponsors work through ad agencies and can be difficult to break into that. So I would recommend find sponsors that are unique to your topic or niche and reach out personally. We actually launched with a sponsor with our very first episode, 0 download proof and no episode history, but the sponsor was right in our niche, our audience, and we said, you'll be both in the audio version, video version, the email newsletter, and we'll post about you on our personal social media. So whatever additional benefits you can add in there for a sponsor, you might be able to land one even with lower download numbers. For instance, maybe you have a gardening podcast, which is not a huge market, so already you're in a good niche, but maybe you can reach out to gardening suppliers, or maybe there's a local shop in your town that wants to advertise on a podcast because you appeal to a local audience. Be creative about reaching out to sponsors and offering those benefits. Another way to monetize your podcast right from the beginning, even if you don't have high download numbers, is offering things like bonus episodes and ad-free content. And your ads can just be for your own podcast or for something yourself, so you can make ads even without sponsors. But offering this direct patronage like we do, we have bonus episodes every week that you can only access when you pay to support the show directly. And we even started a daily news show that you can only access when you pay $5 a month or $50 a year. And listeners can either support us directly in Apple Podcasts or through a platform like Patreon. Direct patronage is a great option because it's taking your most faithful and loyal audience who already love the content you make and just giving them more of that content, or that content without ads and other filler, and they'll love those kinds of benefits. And a third benefit to increase that direct patronage is offering special access to you as the host and your co-host. That can be through a private community or something private like a Discord. We actually built a community using circle.so, and here our members can join for free to comment on our posts, but you can have paid areas of your community that offer benefits and access just for those paying members. So you can reach out to sponsors directly, offer bonus member-only content, access to your community, private access to you, Number 4, you can have that ad-free content. And number 5, doing live streams just specifically for paying members. Again, you can live stream with Riverside for free, and you can do it privately, either unlisted on YouTube or directly through Riverside using audience mode. And you can offer live streams of your actual episode recording or additional live streams, again, just for paying members. If you want to learn more how to set those platforms up and how to offer paid subscriptions through Apple Podcasts and Memberful, I did an entire video on monetizing your podcast. I'll link that down below as well. And that's it. You've now branded your podcast, recorded, edited, published, launched, you're promoted, monetized, and growing your show. Now it's all about being consistent, continuing the passion and sharing your expertise, and most of all, providing value to your listeners and viewers. If you have any questions about this entire process, leave them below this video. I'll answer you personally. Remember, I refer to other videos that go even more in depth on topics like lighting, setting up your home studio, or monetizing your podcast. Links to those videos are down below. And of course, subscribe to the Riverside channel right here, because we offer lots of tutorials. Whenever Riverside launches a new features, you'll see it here on the channel as well. And actually, if you want to join me on one of my own podcast recordings, see my studio and the entire process that goes into making an episode, I'll put a video on that right up here. And then if you want to learn more about Riverside, like its live streaming capabilities, I'll put a video right here that walks you through live streaming step by step on the Riverside platform. I'm excited for you to start your podcast journey. I know you can do it. Just be consistent, continue to share your knowledge and your love of the topic that you're talking about, and the audience will find you. Thank you for watching. We can't wait to see the podcast you create.